why releasing independently? From everything that we spoke in the morning, why?
Control the process.
Control, what else? More income.
Challenge the big ones.
Challenge the big ones.
What's the other option?
Is going for a major label. Or not releasing at all. can be an option as well.
Don't forget to use the mic, please.
So we talked that when artists release...
There is one more thing, no engagement with time.
No engagement?
No engagements with time and releases and all that stuff.
With the schedules from major releases and those timings. Yeah, it's a way of freedom in a way, right? It's a way of doing stuff in a way that is not standardized by a way of doing things that sometimes it's not so reactive as we aim for. Like a big label is like any other big infrastructure or big company. Sometimes they're not the fast ones to react, to change, to do stuff differently. That's why sometimes we see, like we see when we go to public service or to a big institution, we see people doing stuff in a way that when we are more agile, we don't do it like that because we can change faster. And we see that with major labels as well. Sometimes they lack a lot of time to engage in the new ways of doing things. They're not always the first, they're most of the times the last. And when we are independent, we have this capability of reacting faster. We are more dynamic on that way. Everything usually is more clear in terms of business, in terms of accounting, in terms of knowing where the money comes, where the money goes, how it's splitted, how is divided. The freedom is not only a production freedom, actually lots of the times, or most of the times translates also into a creative freedom. It's not common at all that we heard of artists being interfered creatively in their art by independent labels. Usually that's what they like about the artist. So when a label is run by the love of music, what they want is to engage and make bigger what the artist is already doing, not change or trying to put in a box what is done in there. Also the idea of having a closer relationship with the audience when is something that is perceived as important for the artist and for the label. What else? From everybody that's here, if you had the choice of releasing in Sony or in a small label, what will you prefer?
Depends of what you aim.
That's the right answer to this question. It really depends on what
you aim to achieve.
Yeah, because there's different tools. There's a different tool set that will be in your disposal. Maybe when you have an independent release, you'll be more cared, you'll have more attention, you'll be dealt more as a single thing, more discussed. But then maybe you don't have the massive advertising budget that you can have in a huge label. Maybe you don't have the huge capability of distribution that you have in a major label. Major labels still have this capacity of radio airplay, television time. Is still something that they control a lot in all the markets. So it's a matter of weighing what's more important for me, for the releases that I'm doing, and also these things that they kind of still monopolize are not impossible to get. They just take more time. They just take a little bit longer to get there. I'm not saying that if you release independently, you're not being able to get to the radio or to the TV or to have a billboard in the center of Lisbon. You can, maybe it's not so fast as it could be, but maybe it's good that it's not so fast as it could be, because what we see also on the major label market, and we don't see as much on the independent one, is this, you know, like if you, yeah, really fast, really throw to the fan and see who sticks. You know that image in National Geographic when you have all the small turtles going to the sea and then just one arrives there. It's kind of the same thing. And if you go to even in Portugal, if you go to the web page of Sony, and if you see the amount of artists that they will release in the past 6 months, it's insane. There's a lot of people that they were, most of them we will never heard about, because no, they won't get any exposure, because they are not worked with care as well. They're like thrown, let's see if it goes or if it doesn't go. If it doesn't go, sometimes nothing is done to make it work. Because what happens also when we release music is that we could be knocking on the wrong door or making it in a way that is not effective. And if we are willing to learn, sometimes one release can go from not going so well to go really well if the strategy changes, if we start to speak with other people, if we change the way that is communicated, and this is really important as well. And these big structures sometimes don't have this flexibility of spending the time doing something and then changing it to a way that is more relatable with the product that they are releasing. So we can have 3 kinds of release. Self-release is the artist releasing its own work without anyone in the middle, anyone to call a label. Independent labels is a label that has other artists and has someone that can operate some of the procedures, and a major label like we were talking before, that has this structure and this size that is different from all the other ones. So we're going to talk a little bit about each one of these points and see what identifies them and what's the pros and the cons. Self-release. Which artists do you know that are self-released?
Noiser.
Mm-hmm. For now or in the past?
Steven Wilson released independently for a while.
Mm-hmm. Who else? I have 3 examples, one national and one international. Niserve is this.
People that I listen to are self-released.
Sorry?
Most of the people that I listen to are like independent
Mhm.
artists.
And when we look at an artist that is self-released, what does it mean? It means that it doesn't have a team. Sometimes it's a team of one that it doesn't have, but it doesn't have someone who's dealing with the processes of putting the record out, of someone who's dealing with the process of getting the music on record and putting the music out as they wanted it to be listened. And let's think in the head of self-released artists. And let's do the whole process from idea to record on people's turntable or laptop, or what's the means to be put out, and what's the pros and the cons. So I'm an artist, I want to release a record. What do I need?
A studio? Home studio? Professional?
First I need
Guys,
music.
Please use the mic really, because if not, it doesn't make sense on the people who are watching.
So first we need music, something to be recorded, right? And so we need to have an idea, whatever we want to record, and then we need to find the ways and the means to record it. And this can be a lot of stuff. It can be a pro studio that I go for a week if I have the money, or it can be this laptop with this mic, if that's the... Sorry?
In the box.
In the box. It can be everything, a way of getting my music recorded and getting my music in a way that can be played in other ways and in other formats. After I record, what do I need to do
Distribute.
before that?
Master.
Mix master. So I have this recording, I have this piece of music that is released, and I have to mix it and I have to master it. And what's the difference between mixing and mastering?
Mixing is when
Mike?
mixing normally is a process that comes after editing. You record, you edit your music, you have your arrangement and music ready, then you go to mix to balance all the music and to put it sounding as the best you can. Mastering is the final process before printing the record or the medium, or releasing the medium, where you put some information of the music in the medium that you are using, and you give the final touches if necessary to release the music in the best sounding possible that you can,
Considering the support.
considering the support, yes.
Yeah. I used to explain this when asked. Mixing is making the music sound good.
Yeah.
Mastering is making the music sound good in all the formats possible. In this laptop, in my headphones, in this phone, in my car, in the TV, wherever. That's when bad mastering is done, what can happen? I don't know if this happened to you before, like you're listening to a shuffle playlist on Spotify, and you listen to one song and you think that it's sounding okay, and then the next song comes and it sounds like 3 times bigger. Like everything sounds amazing, and you're like, what the, how I was listening. Or the opposite, is worse one is the opposite, like you're listening to this song that is so vivid and so present, and then it changes to another song, and you kind of feel like you turn the volume down like 10% or whatever. So these two processes are really important when you're working with recorded music, because that's something that maybe when we look at the Portuguese market, maybe there's something that is still some work to be done. There's a lot of people that are really good in what they do, but all the recordings are still not consistent. Sometimes you really see the difference from something that is recorded in here and something that is recorded out there, and it's really sometimes hard to translate the value of a band, mostly if it's like a really energetic live band, to a recording. And you have lots of artists that you listen to the record and you're not touched by it by any means, and then you see the live band and you're like, whoa, now I understand why people are talking about this. And it can be by many reasons, by trying to emulate something that can't be emulated, trying to recording in the wrong way. It has a lot. There's actually there's some artists that are really good live, and they choose to use the recording as another thing, not trying to emulate the live experience, trying to do other things, trying to explore other capabilities when they are recording. And recording is one thing, and the live show is another thing. And then don't try to work on that, because it's really hard. It's really hard to encapsulate in a record the power and the engagement of a live band when that's the purpose. So for all of them, having a good recording doesn't mean that it needs to be an expensive recording. So there are music that we listen and that we like that sometimes is recorded in a really home-based, with almost nothing way. It's just it's the tools that we have. It's like when you think about graphic design, there was graphic design before Photoshop and before Illustrator, and now nobody can do nothing without them, at least. Sorry. But There are tools that need to be used. We just need to be confident on the final product, because sometimes, sorry, mostly with the mastering, if the mastering is not properly done, we can have like a brilliant record and then it doesn't sound. And if it doesn't sound, maybe it's an opportunity that we lose because people won't be engaged with it. So we have recording, mixing, mastering. We're happy, we have a master. We think that it sounds great. We try it in many speakers, formats. It sounds great. We really think that it encapsulates what we want to show to the world. What do we do next?
Either fixated and physical support and distribute, or just distribute if you're not doing CDs and vinyls.
Yes.
Artwork before that. Artwork.
And before all that, we plan. Before that, we plan. It's really important to plan, because if we have a record and if we have content that needs to be released, it's really important that we have a plan to release it, that we have a schedule, that we know what to do, when, why, what purpose, and what will feed the other steps. Imagine I have a record with 10 songs, and I think that 2 of them are really good singles, 1 of them has a really good radio play power. If I release them like this, and if I have a hype, for example, if I have a song that really catches the audience and gets some airplay, and if I don't have a plan to what to do next, or what's the next steps, I can be losing a momentum, I can be losing something that could be translated into something better. But if there's nothing, the maximum that I will get will be that only, and nothing following up. I don't know if I understand what I mean. So this is a plan. It's really important to have a plan, and to have a plan at short term, medium term, and long term, to see what's my music, where's my audience, what's my audience listening to, what the ways that the music is getting to them, how are we engaging with this audience. I have this record. This is my first record, or this is my second record. It's going to be totally different. If it is my first record, I'm no one. I need to gain audience, so I need to work in a way that's different than if I am the second record.
I think the promotion is there.
It's key. So I need to do a schedule, and the schedule needs to encapsulate releasing, and this depends. It can be, I will release my record in 6 months, and I will release a single 3 months after, and I will release another single 2 weeks before. It depends. Here there is no rights or wrongs. It depends on what record, what music. I could be a psychedelic rock band that only has 1 track of 50 minutes, and then this makes no sense at all. I need to do it in another way. So each kind of music will have a different time frame and a different schedule to be released. And thinking about what's my audience, I need to, during this schedule, think about what's the way to give this music to the people who will be my audience. What's the most appropriate way? My audience is people who, or I think it is, because if I'm unknown, I don't know who my audience is. Where it is, I need to, but then I need to get some references. Who are the artists that I think that I can relate to? Who are the people that I think I can share audience with? And try to learn from these examples that I have around me. What format? What I release first on YouTube and then on Spotify, everything at the same time. I try to engage my audience with Bandcamp. If so, what do I have to offer on Bandcamp? My audience I have a nice object that people want to buy. I have some merch, I have a strong image. Trying to see my strengths and my weaknesses. I also understanding where is my audience and what does my audience want? What does my audience think of and aims to get the music that I'm doing. And parallel to this release, because here I'm just thinking about putting the record out. but I did nothing for having people knowing about my records. So I also need to do a plan for that. And I have two ways that I need to work in communication. I have communication that is produced by myself, and I have communication that is produced by others. When I say that, what do I mean? Me as an artist, or you as an artist, or as a label, we have means to communicate. Our social media, our newsletters, our website, our platforms. And it's really important that I have a plan for that. Not that everyone needs to be a social media manager or what's the name? Influencer. Because it's not necessary, but I need to have something. I need to have a plan. I need to have a presence. Even if it's a post per month, I need to have something, because lots of times my online presence is also a way of noticing activity from people who are looking for new music, looking for new artists, and looking for an audience. Imagine, like, put yourselves in the feet of a listener. You're like in checking online or listening to some online radio, and you listen to a tune that you liked, and I'm going to check this artist. And you go there, and you go to their Instagram page, and last post was 2 years ago. Like, this guy is dead. Like, I move on, I go to another thing. So it's important, if I'm in a momentum of releasing, to think on this as this sometimes is the entry gate for people to get to know more about me. If my pages are up to date, if I have activity, maybe this person liked this song, and we'll be able to find more songs, and then we'll be able to find an album or a mixtape or whatever and send it to other people. So it's really important to be prepared to be found. Yeah. It's like, if I'm going to throw myself into this universe of showing my music to other people, I need to be prepared to be found by these people. I need to be prepared to give content to these people who will search me. And if I have these means to create content and to create media about myself, it's really important as well that I think about other means of communication that can validate my work. And this usually is the media. So depending on my genre as well, the music that I do, my positioning on the market, it's really important that I have a relationship with someone that is going to tell that I'm good. It's not only me saying that I'm good. It can be Reddit, it can be whatever. We're seeing that today media are more, they're still important, they're still really present, but in some genres of music, like I don't know if you know this journal in Portugal, this newspaper called Público. Maybe Público will never write about black metal thrash band from Sustelo, but some other blogs will, some Reddit pages will. So it's also targeting what is realistic to the audience that I'm trying to communicate. Because sometimes I can be like this artist that has this really specific kind of music and hire the best PR in the world, and maybe nothing will come out of it, because I will be pointing to media that doesn't understand this language, that doesn't understand what I'm talking about. So it's really important also to manage expectations, to be aware of where should I talk, and think that sometimes these other media that can look unreachable can become reachable if there is a buzz around. So if I started to create buzz around, maybe the person from Público will like to interview me, not because he was the first contact that I got, but because he lives in a world and this input started to come to him, like, this harsh noise electronic band from Paredes de Coura is getting a really nice momentum on the internet. Maybe it will be nice to speak with them because they are gathering an audience outside of the normal circuits of communication. And this is the way that sometimes we can get these more traditional media outlets to talk about more obscure or more marginal art when they feel that there is something backing them. There is like a social momentum backing what's being done there. So, parallel to what I can create, it's really important to see what I can have being created to me. If I have the money, hiring someone for this is the best, a PR person, a person that does communication, also in a way that you don't feel that this person is doing the same thing over and over again, independently on the artist, because this can be the question. And then this can be money really badly spent. If you hire someone that works the same way, if it's you, or if it's Wells, and this can happen because we have good professionals and bad professionals in all the areas of work. If I hire a PR, it doesn't mean that it's going to be amazing and a success. So it's important as well, if I'm going to invest this money and if I'm going to spend this money, that I really feel like this person is a person that can work with me, is a person who understands what I'm doing, is a person who understands where I'm talking to, and is a person who can talk to me. And because sometimes when we are doing these self-releases, as we are putting all the weight in ourselves, because we are the artist and the label at the same time, doing everything alone can be really frustrating. Even because I don't have someone to discuss ideas, to think, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, maybe let's do it other way. Because it's really, I used to be, my background comes from the, graphic design, and I had this teacher that was telling this to us when we were like making posters in the class. Like, look to your poster. Your poster is nice, and you say, yeah, it's nice. And your friend is horrible. And it was horrible. But we always have this capability of finding what's ours, all the time beautiful. But when you look to the other on the side, we can notice really easily what's beautiful and what's ugly, or what's well done out with, because we are not on that poster. But I'm part of the poster that I was designing. Like, I'm part of the music that I'm creating. It's really hard for me as a musician to get out of the musician steps and to put the release cape and to criticize my music in a way that I can distance myself from being the creator of it. Because if I had this capability, there will be no bad music in the world, because everybody will be capable of giving a step back and criticizing it, as we can criticize things that are done by others. And we can do that so easily. We can do that really, really, really easy. But again, good and bad is the most wide concepts that there is in the world, and there is no such thing as this. But I'm saying this in a way more that sometimes I can have an image of myself. When I'm in this position, that is not an image that the market has of myself. And sometimes I can be betting in places that are not the places for me. And they are not the places where I should be betting. So it's important to have someone to talk, someone to discuss, someone to have these ideas and to change the way that I'm doing things, and to have another pair of eyes or another pair of ears in what I'm doing. And this approach to the media, if I can hire someone, amazing. If I don't have the money, I can do it myself. It's just a way of identifying the target, seeing how I approach it, seeing how I start to grow a momentum from it. So I have a timetable for format, a timetable for a release, and for communication, sorry. And these two timetables need to be connected and linked, and they will culminate with the record release. And as soon as I have the record released, what needs to happen? Gigs. But even on the record part? Distribution. I need to put the records out. Digitally and physically, if it's the case. Digitally is nowadays easier than ever. I have platforms, I talked about some in the morning, like CD Baby, Awal, Altafont. I have a lot of them. All of them work with a percentage on the plays, so we don't need to pay nothing to create the account. And they can put you in all the platforms from Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. And then we have other ones like Bandcamp that you can also use as your store to sell merch if you have, if you're for selling CDs if you have, and for selling the physical goods if you have them as well. And this is a easy part to do. Then I have the physical distribution, and here is more tricky if you're independent. Why? Because like here in Portugal, now it kind of dissolved, but a few years ago the major retailer for music was Fnac. It was like these big shops that would sell all kinds of music. They will sell tickets for shows. They'll be like the bastion of culture for selling books and records. And being at Fnac was like if you're telling your parents that you were a musician, they wouldn't believe until you had a record at Fnac, because it was a place that the records were sold. But if you are an independent musician, it was really hard to put the records there, because they buy records to distributors that usually are linked to the big labels. They buy the records to Sony, they buy the records to these structures. What could you do if you wanted to enter this chain? You could play there in their showcases, and in these cases they will buy you a month of records. Not buy, consign an amount of records, and they will stay there. But if you wanted to have your record in 10 Fnacs, you needed to do 10 showcases. You need to go and play there in each one of them one time, and usually these were not the best places to. If you ask musicians if they liked to play there, most of them didn't have the best time of their lives doing a show there. Or if you had some
Contracts with distributors.
you could do that, but that's the only way. But what happened, like in the reality of Portugal? We had 2 or 3 independent distributors that were good, and you could make deals with them being outside of major labels. But this kind of business started to collapse, so most of them closed the doors or ended the deals, or started to work in a more conservative way. So they stopped doing these deals with smaller labels, with smaller artists. Here we're talking about artists, not even labels. So this was a door that for moments was shut. So where do you turn? You turn yourself to independent record stores, because here you can go there, you can approach them directly, you can speak with them. But it's a work that you don't have someone who deals with everything. You need to go to Porto and talk with Lui, with Matéria Prima, with then go to Lisbon, then go to Aveiro. So it's another work. It's another part, and then you send 20 records, and then a month you need to say, how many records did you sold? No reply. How many records did you sold? No reply. Calling. Where's my money? And this is a part of the system of being independent. The good thing about not being independent is having these people who do these jobs for you. If you are independent, you need to do them yourself. And you have the the direct to customer sale that is more and more important, like we were talking in the morning. You go to Bandcamp, you put your records for sale, your audience goes there, buys a record, you get an email, you need to send a record to this person. What you need to know when this happens: how do I ship a record on a post office? Sometimes you don't know until it happens to you. Now I have this beautiful vinyl, and I need to send it to Canada. How do I do that? I put it on Bandcamp that it was €2 to send there, and now I go to the post office and it's 20. So I lost money to send this record to Canada. And I don't have the proper way of accumulate the record. I don't know, I go there and I buy these envelopes from Saint Etienne, it doesn't work, and now the person who bought the record writes me 3 weeks after, mad because the record got turned banned during the. So this is also things that if I want to be independent, I need to be aware of. I need to know where to buy the sleeves to protect the records. I need to know how much it costs to ship a record. What's the catalog? Well, because if you're shipping, it can be by size and by weight. I need to know one record how much it costs. If it's 10 records, how much it costs. If it's a above some weight, CTT doesn't do it. You need to do it with DHL or anything else. So if I want to be independent, I need to know this. I need to know all these details. I need to know where is the post office. I need to have time to go to the post office and send wait in the post office. So these are things that when I have a middleman or a middle company, I can give them the records and they sort it out. When I don't have it, I need to sort it out myself. So if I want to go into this path, I really need to be aware of all these small things that I need to do. And then I think, when do I practice and play? In the middle of this. Because sometimes, here I'm just talking about the releasing side. There are artists who put on themselves also the responsibility of managing, mostly when it's like a solo artist who has a band. And the band is like a hired band. They need to get the riders, get the van, get the tour manager, pay everyone. It's a full-time job. Just doing this, just managing all this. And doing this alone is hard because managing a live band is not the same as managing a label. That is not the same as talking with promoters. That is not the same. It's totally different jobs. So it's really hard that someone is really good at booking and really good at managing a label. It's like that is really hard that somebody is really good at plumbing and is really good at cooking. It can happen, but it's not so easy. So when you're totally alone, it's good in the beginning that you know how it works and you get to do all this stuff. But if it grows, it's really important that you get someone to help you with this, and you get to start to give some functions to other people, start to work with other people, start to think with other people, or otherwise there'll be a time that you'll start to feel this as a job. And maybe you start to think, maybe I don't want this to be as a job. Maybe I wanted to play music and now I'm at the post office all morning, sending records to South America and to the UK and paying more, and I don't want this for my life. So it's really important that I'm aware of all these things. And when I work with releasing communication and I have these ideas about how to ship the records, it's really important as well that if I am the composer and if I am the owner of the master, that I'm part of some associations. These associations will help me get my royalties that are part of the plays and the reproduction of this music. So if I'm the author, it's SPA in Portugal. This has many names in many countries. In Spain it's SGAI. It depends. There are countries that you have more than one. In Portugal it's a monopoly, like in France you have like 3 or 4. There are countries that you have more than one. And what does SPA does? Imagine that I was giving this example of me being a singer-songwriter who has a band, but the band is just hired to play live. So when I go to SPA, the only right that will be charged will be the rights of the composer, of the music and of the lyrics. So it's divided. So if I wrote the music, it's one application. If I wrote the lyrics, it's another application. When I go to play, let's say at a festival, Paredes de Coura, for example. It's a big festival here in Portugal. They pay an amount to SPA because SPA is like the middleman who charges our copyright. And they get this money from the promoter, and you tell SPA, oh, I played there, and this was the set list that I played this music. And SPA gets this paper, and they see from the amount of money that they got from the festival what share is to you, and then they give you the money that's correspondent to that share of copyright. Okay? And if you want to deal with copyright in Portugal, or you work with SPA, that lots of people have a lot against them, in many ways possible, mostly because of what? Not because they shouldn't exist, they should exist, it needs to exist, because copyright is a right of a person who composes and who writes music or books or movies or whatever. It's a transparency. People don't understand how it works. People don't understand where the money goes. People don't understand nothing about it. That's why people get mad with them. But you can also And we had for a long time, you know this artist, legendary Tiger Man? He used to work for a long time with the French SPA because he felt like they were doing a better job for him, and they were coming here to Portugal to charge his rights, and they were more effective into charging. So you can do that. You can, if you're not happy with the Portuguese one, you need to apply to another one in another country, and if they are keen to come here and to charge the rights for you, they will do it because they'll get a cut from it. For Tiger Man, they were happy with it because he's an artist that he manages some rights. He wrote a lot of music for movies, he wrote a lot of music for television, and this is like a heavy weight of copyright here to be explored. So this is one, and it's really important. Then you have GDA. GDA is for the people who played at the record. Imagine like we go to the studio, I wrote everything, but I invited you all to play. You play the guitar, you play the drums, you play the bass, all of us played in the record. All the copyright money will go to me, but some of the reproduction money will go to each one of you because you played on the record. So when the record is played, imagine like I was here DJing and I play the record, or the record is played on the TV, the record is played on the radio. Some of the money that is paid is to the copyright, another one is for the people who actually played on the record. And this organization is the totally opposite of SPA. It's an organization that musicians are really happy to be part of it because they feel that it's really transparent, they really feel that it helps them a lot. You have like an insurance for dentists, for back injury, you have a lot of support. It's really easy to, you have like this login that you go and you see immediately how much money you're going to get, where it comes from. It's really transparent, and it's really used a lot as an example, like why SPA are not like this, because this were able to do it so well, so properly. So it's a really nice one to be part of. And lastly, we are self-releasing, we are the owners of the master. So as we are the owners of the master, we can apply to be part of AudioGest. AudioGest is the Portuguese Association of Phonographs that charges the right all the times that a phonograph is played. And it's like, have you ever heard of Pass Música? It's a license that you pay when you, like if you go to a store and it's playing music, they have like a Pass Música A4 printed in the wall, if you go to a cafe, if you go to a party, because that right is something that all the cafes, bars, stores, any place who has music playing needs to pay this fee, and this fee goes to this AudioGest that gives a part of it to GDA, but he keeps most of it. And this money is then divided by the associates who own the master recordings of the records.
I want to point just one thing. I think here in Portugal, if I'm not wrong, I think it is everywhere, but the one of having a master that belongs to you, you need to have proof of payment of the master, because if you don't have this payment, the master is from the person had recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Like the studio.
Like a studio. So it's very important when you go to a studio that you ask a receipt. That's a proof that the master belongs to you.
But somehow the master somehow can't be released from the studio.
Yeah, this is right in a point of you get to a clash.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that happens, if you go to the courts and someone says, "Oh, this master is mine," no, this master is mine. This is a. If you have the proof of payment, otherwise, yeah, and that's important. Now imagine that you came to. I'm an engineer. I have a studio, and you came to my studio to record, and I record, you released, and you pay me like €500, but I didn't invoice you. You pay me like, I told you like, it's 500, but if you want an invoice, it's plus VAT. I was like, oh no, take the 500. And suddenly you are a big success, and like, oh, I want more money. And I go and hire a lawyer and say, that master is mine. And you don't have a receipt that proves that you paid for my job. Of course, it goes to court and everything, but I can win.
Okay, but for example, if you master your own work, imagine you are an artist,
That,
you master
if
your
you
own
have-
work, you don't have proof of anything, but you have the files on your.
But then you have the files, and then your name is under the person who recorded it,
All right.
because he was.
When I play lives at bars and other clubs and venues, sometimes they ask me to do a list of songs, name of the song, artist. Okay, the name is unreleased one, artist, Austria. What do I win with that? Like, why do that's for the past music, right?
You win if you have masters with those recordings. If you don't have, you don't win nothing.
Okay.
If you have that work released, yes, you win, because part of the amount of the
So, but I win if I'm signed in SPA.
SPA and your master is signed with AudioGest.
Okay, so City was listening.
Yeah, he was listening. He doesn't know.
So at the end of the day, it's worth it to be signed on SPA and AudioGest. Okay.
It's bad, but it's the best that we have. The thing is, mostly with SPA, this transparency thing is really common. You need to go there and knock and ask, where's my money? I don't know. Where's my money? I don't know. But I have this, and then you go. And then, but there is a moment that they give you a phone number from someone who's managing your account, and from that on is easy. And it's easy to get the reports, to get everything. But this is a part of the copyright. If it's from the master recording, and you're getting the mechanical rights from it, from reproducing it, then it's not with SPA, it's the master of your release. It needs to be released, and the master needs to be under the AudioGest catalog. How do you do that? When you release a record, for each song, you create a SRC codes, and these codes are the ones who identify your song. So with these codes, they can identify that their song was played, so this amount of money goes. It's the same codes who are used on the radio, like Antena 3 or TSF. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a barcode of the song.
International standard
Yeah.
recording code that
Like
you use to
TSF,
The track released on the label with the year and
yeah, any radio, any TV, any
But you need to be registered because
With
you're no
with both AudioGest.
AudioGest. They will send you a reference code for you to put in the ESR codes. Okay.
I was doing that for myself.
No.
Okay, so I
You
need
have
to
a
register
you have
AudioGest
a standard procedure to with certain numbers for video, for audio, and also for your name.
Okay, so I released a VA compilation last year in February.
Sorry.
No.
Maybe I should have on the microphone. So I released the VA compilation on February of 2022. Can I still ask for AudioGest to register it?
Yes. Again, I will show you. I have here one. But you can, because what they do is that they send when you apply, they send you.
They just give you a number and then you can add music.
Yeah, when you first. I don't have
You
it.
can ask for the ISRC without being registered in AudioGest. You can have it the both ways or either one. For example, now I have the ISRC, but I'm still not registered because they take a lot of time to put new people. I tried in February 16th, and until today I have no answer at all. Because they said, and this was by phone, that I hadn't enough music, enough songs of other people. If I claim I'm a producer, I'd have to have music for other people.
What?
You know what I mean? They said that I have to produce other people if I consider myself
A producer, yeah.
and I had only the songs of mine.
Okay.
So they said, it may take a while because
To
you
get
have to
catalog.
increase your catalog.
Yeah. But here is like the Excel sheet where you send the metadata to AudioGest, so they have it when they start to cross-check references with radio, with TV, with everything. So here you send like, this is like our internal numbering, is the amount of tracks that we send, who is the artist, what's the name of the recording, and this is the code. Like in our case, at Lovers and Lollypops, the ESRC is generated by our distributor. So we don't do them ourselves. Like we send them and they automatically generate these codes and we get these codes. And then we have duration, year, then rights holding, who owns the rights. If it's a case that we just own 20% of the record, or we just own 20% of the mastering, we can do, because there is chances that we don't own 100% of it, we can own just parts of it, and if he has contributions. And with this data, then they cross-check, like TSF, I don't know when, but let's say 8 of each month they send an Excel sheet with everything that they played. And they cross-check and they see, like, maybe you can have like the most played song of TSF, and they know by these codes that your song played a lot. But this procedure is not fair enough still, because I was once, because I was part of the board of this association called AMAE, is the Portuguese Association of yeah, you're also okay. And I was once in this meeting from AudioGest, and it was like 2 months before Santos and São João and all that. And there was this person there that he owns a label that releases Portuguese popular music, Pimba music, that it has loads of tunes who are used during São João, like music that only plays during those 3 weeks. But they play everywhere. You go to all the parties, you go to supermarkets, and you know these tunes of São João, they are playing all the time. But it was telling that every time that because my music is seasonal and it doesn't play on radios, it plays like on places where the codes are not sent, he didn't saw that the amount of money that he was getting was reflecting the amount of plays that he was getting, because this information was not reaching the source. And what AudioGest wants to do is to install a Shazam kind of device in all the supermarkets, all the fairs and all the things, to record which music is played, so everybody gets a proper share of the music that is being played on those times.
Sorry, just to add that you, before the conversation before, but that you also can get ISRC codes if you're not working, if your distributor doesn't provide this. You can contact, I think it's also maybe through AudioGest, I'm not sure. They give you a code that is referring to your country, then a specific code for your label, and then you put the year, and each time, for example, the first record, if it has 11 tracks, it's, imagine, BKF 2023 11, and then the second record will start on the 12th. And then in the end of the year, it resets back to 0. But it's a code that belongs just to you as an artist or as a record label, depending on how you are releasing. But it's also a possibility.
I check it when I check it here in the emails from long time. That's one advantage of it. Was AFP. AFP that. association for
So, as a self-released artist, SPA, copyrights, GDA, execution, right, the people who played, and audio gest, the master, the ones who won the mastering. And this is really important as well, because sometimes this could be the difference of living off music or not living off music. Because if a record goes well, there's some really nice money to be done here. That is really different, not knowing this and knowing this. And when there is music that's played a lot and the artists are not part of these organizations, what happens? This money is collected, but it stays. And that's one thing that everybody's always fighting against SPA is like, where's this money? There's a lot of this money. That's just lying there. Of course, it's not just lying there. It's being distributed by the association, because SPA has this really, I think, is a unique thing in the old world that I'm aware. SPA is a company. It's a private company that can call the police. Imagine, they have this power, like, if you owe me money, I can't call the police. But if I owe money to the SPA, they can call the police and they enter and shut down the whole place. So they have this, but it's a private company. It's not like a state-owned company, nothing. It's a private company goes for profit. So they don't have any interest on having this clear as GDA has, because it's a foundation, it's run on different things. But it's the one that we have. And
also there was a time that SPA could, or not could, they did invite regular citizens to work as inspectors for them, and you could just invest yourself of SPA power, which doesn't exist officially because institutionally, because it's not an institution. It's a private organization, and you could decide, okay, now I want to be SPA inspector and go into the places and inspect them and get your cut of this dirty business, you know, which is crazy. It's even so. I think most of independent artists that decide to be independent for a reason, because there are some values of the way that you want to release your music. It's very difficult to put yourself in the hands of an organization like this. And I wanted to ask you a question that is, I think most of people know about Creative Commons. That is also one possibility concerning the license for your music. How does it connect to this? I know, well, we're going to have actually a whole track just on this subject, but just very quickly, how does Creative Commons connect with these three different like types of rights?
so it doesn't have any impact here. You collect your rights the same. What Creative Connects allows you to do is, like, you release music and I can use your music freely to create another music. And then I will have a part of the rights that will be charged for the new composition, but I need to say that I used parts of your song, so you'll get a cut as well. What the difference is, if I don't have a Creative Commons, I can use your track and you can sue me. Because you can say that it has a lot to do with amount of seconds that you use. Because we live, and I believe happily, in a world that is like chords. It's like saying that an F, I invented the F, and no one can use the F. Sometimes sampling is that you have a groove, something that people are using in another totally different way. And it has to be, if you use like 1 second of a song, no problem. If you use a part that the song is recognizable, and you feel like I'm using part of your composition without your permits, then you can sue me and have a big trouble. With Creative Commons, we don't have that, but then all the rights are charged in the same way. It's just we kind of are able to use other people's music as notes, as instruments, as something that can create more music from it. There is a really nice documentary from Girl Talk. I don't know if you heard of this. He's a American producer that he does music with other people's music, and he became huge. You can like really, like David Guetta huge. massive DJ, and he has this documentary that he's facing being sued by everybody because he's using, like, he uses music from the most obscure noise artist to Madonna or whatever. So he was dealing with all these problems. It's really nice.
Each record is like, he uses like maybe 300 songs from
Yeah.
other artists. Imagine the legal nightmare that is. It's just like one meshing into the other, into the other. You're always recognizing it because there's like some really obscure stuff there, but there's also really popular.
Yeah, Beyonce,
mainstream.
Madonna, everything. Yeah.
It's great. It's
In the
great.
US, in the US, you already have lawyers that are specialized in sampling, like like you in Portugal, you're a lawyer for family or for other kind of crimes, and in US, you already have like the sampling lawyer that only has studies cases related to sampling.
Yeah.
Because it's an old world and an old economy based on sampling. Yeah.
Yes, you're having here Nuno, I think, next week.
Yeah.
And he dealt with he can talk with you then, but there is this artist called Calman Duran, and he used a part of a song from who? Ice Cube, or I don't think so. I don't remember the name, but it was like a Daddy Yankee. And he sent him the track, like, oh, I want to release this, I need some advice if I can release that. And he said, no, you can't. If you release that, you're going to be sued immediately, because it was 1 second more than the loop that he could do. So I needed to redo all the song to be in the amount of time that it can be released. Yeah, sometimes it has these peculiar things. But I believe also that it will evolve, and this is so common now. Now you have like the biggest artists are sampling, like this Beyonce record is sampled. All the songs are sampled, and this is becoming more part of our popular culture. That there is one time that the law will change, because it will not be doable with reality that we have. But yeah, but in Portugal we have this. If we are the label, it's really important that we are part of these 3 organizations, because if we have it doesn't need to be really successful. If it has airplay, if you play live regularly, if you play in places that are organized, that you know that they pay SPA, that you know that they pay the taxes, in the end of that, it's not a monthly payment, but it's every 6 months. Maybe it's the difference of getting 6,000 euros or getting 0 euros, and it's money that's yours. That if you don't claim it, it's going to stay there forever.
Yeah. But you. If you are associated with the SPA, you have an account and user, and you have a specific area where you see your money there.
Mm-hmm.
You need to claim it, to have it in your bank, but it's always there. Okay, it's always there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
It's true, because I have there.
Yeah, and now they're doing some, like last
You
year,
need to claim, give the RS name and all the.
they sent an invoice.
Blah blah blah, and they deposit the money.
And in SPA, when you get to, if you do more, is an amount of songs that you have applied there, you go up and you get to become like a premium member, and you get some bonus, and that's a way that they have to, when an artist starts to get really big, to become happy
Also,
with
they
it.
have special housing for when you bring in members that arrive to a degree. When you get retired, you have those accommodations and those treatments that they offer.
Tipo uma espécie.
Kind of
Yeah.
insurance.
For some people, it's really good life. Yeah, there are stories of artists who got releases paid by them, like take this and go.
Top.
So coming to
I have a question. So because I'm not from here, then I was actually googling what SP is, and so is this the same as the societies that collect your mechanical, your publishing, and all of those? No, so this is not the same as BMI or ASCAP or.
Yes. But they can collect only parts of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything that is related with rights, with the person who wrote the music. So
you guys have SP and you have AudioGest.
AudioGest is not the copyright; is the master, is the owner of the master. Is the way. Imagine like. You wrote a song and I released it. You'll get the SPA money and I will get the AudioGest money.
So kind of like publishing.
In a way.
So sorry, but what would be a counterpart of this in a country like US? What would be a similar organization in a country like US or UK?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And what was the name of that film that you said who makes music using sampling?
I don't know. It's Girl Talk documentary. I don't know the name of I don't know the name of the.
I don't know if it's RIP a Remix Manifesto.
I think
or possibly there's I was also searching because if you look for Girl Talk documentary, you find something completely different. but this could be one. I can drop some links later.
Yeah. And so here we have a plan to release. We decide when to release, how to release, what's the target. We have a communication plan in place, all good. We have we are part of the associations who collect the rights that I can collect, being composer, being a person who played, and being the owner of the master. And nowadays also is really important that I look at my music outside of only these scenarios of selling the records and playing them live. It's really important that I also look at the possibilities of publishing, of getting my music, if I'm interested in being part of movies, being part of TV series, being part of advertising, being part of whatever. And for this, I'll need a publisher, only the person who works with publishing. What's this role and what does this person do? Anyone wants to take a risk in explaining?
The publishing identity.
Mm-hmm.
It is a person that prepares all the texts, all the information that you need to know everything about the work and format that you are releasing, and prepare the places also. Can do that job also. Can work a bit as an agent between you and the publishers itself, the entities that publishes your work. That's basically the main job that they do.
Yeah, is a person that usually is good, that has really strong connects and bonds with studios, with TVs, with places where content is produced and places that need music. Because we have content, and this content is really valuable to some people. People need to do stuff. You see now that you have TV series being done all the time, you have movies being done all the time, you have advertising being done all the time. And there are two ways that people put music into this. Or they hire someone to write the music, that's one thing. Or they use music that already exists, and there's another thing. And sometimes a publisher is kind of like an agent, but for recorded music. He has a catalog, with a lot of music that he knows. And sometimes what happens with publishers, at least in my experience of working with them, is like in my label, we release really different genres of music. So we kind of have a different publisher for each artist in the genre that they work. Because if he's like a rock and roll artist, I have this publisher that the studios know that he can get really good rock and roll songs. You know? So they are known in the market like this. If it's electronic music, I work with these other people because the studios, when they want to buy, they know that this guy or this woman has like a nice catalog of electronic music. And a good publisher also has the feeling and the touch of understanding what the client wants. You know, he saw the pitch of the movie, understands the vibe of it, so he checks the catalog and, oh, I think this song
gives all the information
to the music supervisor, that usually is the person who decides which music enters or not in the movie, in the TV series, wherever. And he pitches them with 1, 2, 3 options, it depends. Then is like the different way of working from one to the other. And if successful, if this happens, it can be like a really nice income for the artist, a really, really big one. But it's also important to understand what kind of deals do you make when you sell your music, because you can have two types of deals. You can have a fixed deal where you have like a flat fee, usually bigger, but you concede the rights of that song being played on that context. So even if that song is played 1 million times on that program, so I'm not saying on the radio or whatever, but on that context of that program, you get 0. You just got the flat fee. You just got the money that you got in advance. Or you can make a deal where you get a lower flat fee. Usually they called it a small price. It's like for just cutting the deal. But then you have a part of the rights that will be part of that song being reproduced on that context. I worked with a band that one time we sold a song for Shameless, and we did the second deal, and they earned a lot of money from it because it was everywhere on the TV, Netflix, and it was for a while. They still get some money from it. So it depends. If you know that it's going to be a successful thing and it has a lot of airplay and it has a lot of time, because you get money from TVs, you get money from streaming platforms, you get money from all these ways. And if it's a TV series or a movie that's like it's not a fashionable thing, you know, that is going to be seen for a long time, like The Sopranos. If you have a song on Sopranos, you can live on royalties forever because it's a TV series that is going to be reproduced a lot of time until someone forgets that it exists. So it's really important to kind of understand if there's something that the money that they're paying up front is better than not getting so much money up front, but trying to see how we could work in a longer term. And is a really important source of income for an artist if it's able to put their music being sold to these ways of reproducing it. In Portugal, there's always a relationship between market and the middleman. We don't have a huge industry of producing content, so a publisher in Portugal will starve to death because he doesn't have so many people to sell the music to. So as we are having more things being produced here, now you're having some movies, and now you're having the TV doing some content. Now this role is being developed, but like on Lovers and Lollypops, all our publishers are American or British.
Also the game industry.
Yeah, also the game industry
is growing also in Portugal and publishers.
Yeah, and publishers. Yeah, because there's also a big industry and there's a lot of money in there as well. So it's really important that you're aware of this first, that you know that there's income to be done here, and try to find someone who can fit your needs. It's like looking for an agent or for a PR. It's the same. There are a lot of them. There are people who work with really different ways and work with different styles and have different approaches. It's the same thing. It's not like if I know that one, he or her will be the best. No, maybe the one that I know is okay, but I need to know more to see if is the person who works with me.
To be fully prepared is also important that during the post-production phase you have an instrumental version of your song.
Yes, that's really important, and there was one time that we were almost losing a deal because of that. Because we had this song that was recorded on tape, and when the song was recorded, it was never thought that we'll need instrumentals of the song. So the band needed to go to studio and record the song again, with no voice. We were about to lose the deal because they needed the tracks without voice, and we couldn't get them. And now it's a thing that we always, when we ask for the mixes, we always ask for one instrumental version and another one with because if this happens, usually it's deals that I close this deal, I have this offer, I need everything for tomorrow, or 2 days or 3 days. So we need to respond really quickly and have the things really ready to be sent.
I'm gonna put this example here because maybe it's interesting. I was just proposed to be like, there's a woman that wants to use my music in a movie that she's doing a documentary, and she's also asking me, besides the music, to use the stems of my music. So I was wondering if it's different, no? Like to sell just like, okay, she pays me whatever flat fee for one song, but if I give her the stems, would that be the same or would that be different? Or even like she's also proposing me that maybe I work with a person who's doing the sound, like the general sound, who's like the musician for the general, more boring parts, let's say, of the music, and like we do something together. That would be another different thing, no?
Yeah, that will be a different thing because publishing, the standard business is working with music that's already done. And sometimes maybe removing the voice and looping a little part that can last for more time. But if you have the stems, then you can create new music. So it's a different thing. And it should be, yeah, it should be another payment for that. Because it's not just using music that already exists. You can be creating something that totally new. So, the individual files. It's like tracks. If a DJ... Like, yeah. Sometimes if you ask someone to do a remix from a song from you, they will ask you the stems. It's like drums, bass, guitar, voice, everything separated, so you can rearrange all that. Usually that's another deal, another thing.
So it would be like 3 different deals inside the same deal, no? Like using the fixed one, the one like just the separate stems, or one that's gonna be made especially for the thing.
Yeah, there will be different reasons. What can happen is, for the one that's made specially for it, then the deal could be the master is from the movie owner or the master is yours. Usually the studios try to have, when they ask for someone to compose the music, to become the owners of the rights of the music, so then they can sell the music, make them.
Even like co-owning, no?
It could be co-owning.
The sound engineer or the sound guy and myself.
Yeah. So always the important thing here, deals are good deals or bad deals, or ones are better than the other. But the most important thing is always be clear and know that I'm doing this and I'm aware that this choice represents this plus and this minus. Because what happens a lot of time is that we are not aware of this, or the artists are not aware of this, and that's when things go wrong or go south. Because if you are aware, it's something that you did knowing what are the consequences of it.
Tem uma pergunta. Should I take the mic? Obrigada. There's a common understanding that we should make it as much easier as possible in terms of licensing, because the publisher won't wait for me to check the availability of all the licensings. How do I make clear that I own the master? What is the standard way to prove to the publisher that I own the master? The receipt of the studio?
Or you sign yourself as the recording one, when is the case, or with the receipt of the studio, it's easy.
It's like the being registered in AudioGest would also prove it, because they have like...
Yeah, in the end, that is the final stamp.
Okay.
Because if it's written there, is the company who validates it is validating, so it's cool. So here we have music, communication, being part of all these associations, knowing a publisher, doing the artwork is really important, and artwork that can be applied to the way that I will be releasing this music, and also having a promo pack to release this music. What's a promo pack? Promo pack is something ready to share that has all the information that everybody needs to have about this record. Usually a promo pack from a record on its most beautiful way is a link to a website or to a Dropbox or to a Google Drive, whatever, that has, it's not a lot, the cover, and it can be high res and low res, or just high res and then people do the low res, whatever. Pictures, horizontal and vertical, of the artist, or the promo pics of the release. And then two documents that sometimes are seen as the same, but they are not. Bio and press release. So a bio is like a CV of an artist. It's like, hey, my name is Márcio, I come from Barcelos, I play the guitar, I studied in I like to eat francesinha, and my life is amazing. That's cool, that's the bio, that's who I am, who is this artist, who is this band, who are these people. A press release can be a really lyrical text, because sometimes you even ask like a poet or another musician or a journalist to write something about that release that doesn't need to be...
It's like your journey as an artist.
Yeah, yes. And sometimes press releases are like a piece of art in itself. Press releases doesn't have the weight of describing as a bio has. A bio is important that when someone reads the bio understands who are these people, where they come from, what they are doing. A press release, sometimes when it's a really written one, it gives you the guts to listen to the record, because you're reading this text by this person. I became aware of a lot of music by reading press releases from people that I liked, and they were written in a way that made me want to listen to that music. They were written in a really good way. So this is really important and really beautiful to have. If you have this organized, you're making a life easy, you're making the life of a journalist easy, you're making the life of the promoter easy, you're making the life of the people, or the person who's, that in this case it should be you, sending the record to the record shops to have them on sale easy, because all the information is gathered. One thing that you could have as well, next to the press release, is a link for the people to listen to the music that is on the record. And also really important. Avoid 100% sending attached files with transfer links with 3 gigas of music that you click and then you see 3 gigas of music. I will never download this from this band that I never heard of. So try to have things as easier as we will want to have them. Yeah, it's the same. We need to put ourselves in the position of getting this information. And when you're talking about journalists that you want to write about your music, or promoters, or imagine that usually these people, they get a lot of emails. A lot of them. Daily. Sorry? No, because we are just talking about release. Then if you go live, yes, tech writer, backline, this is really important as well. But here, as we are only talking about the releases, this is the most important.
Can you show us some example
of
Of the promo pack. Oh, and also the first thing that you said is the cover. You mean the cover? Of
the cover, yeah, the cover.
The songs can be like on a link to SoundCloud or something.
SoundCloud is beautiful. It's the one that I use the most because of a lot of things. It can be private. You don't need to install anything. It's just streaming. You just click and it opens in the browser. You don't need to have an account. It's just come play. It's all good.
Who would you send the promo pack to?
Usually, if I'm working with a record, I will send. If I have a PR agent, she or he will deal with sending it to all the journalists and all the media part, and I will send to people that I know that can have an impact on the record, like opinion makers, promoters, musicians, like these people that I know that can generate impact on the record. Sometimes to other labels, if I'm looking for a partner to release. Imagine that I'm here in Portugal and I feel that this record can resonate in the UK. I did that in the past, but I learned that, at least for me and for my scale, doing a plan to another country, it's hard when I'm not there. And when I'm a structure that does so many things, we are not just a label, we are a lot. And sometimes, like the production part, like the festivals take us a lot of time that we can't focus on going abroad. So we try to find partners. We try to find a label that we like that will do the release with us in another country. And to promoters as well, like mostly to promoters that here in Portugal, there are like a few places that if you play, they open the gates to many other places. So it's good to give these people the record, make them listen, make them engage with the record. And this will help not only the record by itself, but the live shows and all this part that is aggregated with the record.
Pastor.
Could you just repeat the promo pack, the different things that it needs to have?
Cover.
Photos, the bio, press release, link to the music.
Cover.
Bio.
Você falou uma coisa de high S and low S também.
A resolution. Então era cover, pictures, vertical and horizontal, bio, press release, and a link with the music. Yeah, the cover is a
Sorry, just one question too. When you're talking about, for example, making a partnership with another label in a different country to co-release, what kind of deals or what kind of partnerships, how can this work? Because I heard of this a lot, I can think of some ways, but it's something I don't really know how it works.
Yeah, it depends on the scale. Like we did it, just so I don't forget, regarding the promo pack, I don't have it here with me, but I can send by email. I can leave you my email in the end, and then I can send it all. But regarding that, I did it as giving the record to other people to repress, and I also repressed here in Portugal records from other labels. And the most common way that we did this, because it's small scale stuff, it's like we're talking about 500 records, 1,000 maximum, is we get an amount of the records to us. Imagine like 30%. Like imagine that they do 1,000 records, and they give us 300 records, and they keep 700 records for them, and they do whatever they want with them, and we didn't pay nothing for these 300 records. Because we are just giving them the rights for the physical part. They don't distribute the record online. Everything that is online, everything that is on the digital platforms stays with us only. And even the ESX codes that they sell is our codes, it's not their codes.
So basically, in this case, you get a percentage of the physical units, and they get the other.
And they get the other, yeah. But they do all They do
the
all
work.
all the investment in duplicating the record, and they take all the risk if they don't sell them.
Okay.
But I did that as a label here, like 2 years ago, and we did one that we paid in advance. That was not a lot. It was like we paid. It was like the value of 100 sales, something like that. And we gave them a smaller cut of the records. It was like, we did a release of 500 and we gave them 50 records, something like that. And what we did as well with them, was as an American band that we did the release here. And when they came to Europe, if they didn't have any records, we would sell them records at the manufacturer price, so they have records on sale. But then all the other records that we sold was our income. Because if we tried to do it one time with another band that they were linked with a bigger label in America, and then they were asking us for an insane amount of money, like for a licensing deal, for reproducing the record, and we tried to show them, like, even if we sell out all the records, we will lose 1,000 euros. Like, oh, but this is a deal that okay, but we didn't do. Because it's a matter of scale. And what we notice a lot of times when we are being the local partner, when we are the ones who are doing the records, is like, for an American, mostly for American label, they don't have the sense of scale. They think this is way bigger than it is. So the numbers is like, they're insane. Like, this will be like a golden record in Portugal, and this is not the reality that we have. When we are giving the rights away, it's way more easy. But it depends all the time.
You can also maybe do it like both ways, no? Like if there's some other record label in another geography that you really identify with and you like what they are putting out, maybe pass them an amount of records from one of your releases and get and promote their release here, and then promote their release there. No, that could be also a possibility.
That could be also. We work a lot with through the years with this label in the UK called Cardinal Fuzz, and we did loads of co-releases with them, like from bands, like a band that we did a lot was Black Bombay, and we did a lot. João Pai Filipe, we still do. And again, the thing is making this deal in a way that we know what we get, they know what they get, it's clear, the artist knows, all good. Because if the points on the contract are clear, then it's all good. Another thing that I highly recommend, that here we are talking about self-release, but when we do these things, and even when we move to the other phase to be linked with an independent label, do contracts all the time. Not because of not trusting, just because we forget things. And when a relationship starts to corrupt is when I think one thing and you think another. Like, oh, my cut was 25%. No, it was 30. This was done 5 years ago. And then I start to think, maybe that person is trying to fuck me over. No, maybe. And this is the beginning of the end. Because these relationships are built in trust, and trust is really important between all these people. And we learned that from mistake, because we used to not do contracts for anything, because we always had this romantic approach to, no, we don't need this, no, we do this. But then we started to age, and our memory started to get worse, and sometimes were deals that were made personally, that we wrote in some paper. And after a while, like, or phone, and like after a while, like, what was the deal?
But still, you have to do it in the way you know what you're reading, because sometimes contracts are in these languages that, like, if you're not a lawyer, you cannot really understand what it's being said. No?
Yeah, but there are ways that you can do it in really simple way. Like MIA has some really nice templates for if you're part of the association to help you build a contract.
Lawyers are really expensive.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, like, in a language that you understand, you
Yeah, but when I say contract, sometimes it can be something that has no legal value. It just has. Yeah, it's an MBA. It's something that was signed and agreed by the two parts or the three parts, and serves as, what was the deal? Let me see. It's here, and then there is no discussion. Then everybody's comfortable with it. I say it not so much on the way of going to court or going to have a legal weight, more into being a memory helper that can make something that starts to get blurred to become more clear.
It's more of an agreement rather than a contract.
Yeah.
It's related to legal stuff.
Yep.
A legal contract normally is way upper than 2,000 euros.
Yeah.
A simple one. In a person that is in the area working, a lawyer. Okay, I will repeat. Normally, a lawyer that works with music and agents in all this area is always starting contract. A simple one, normal, is always up than 1,000 and half, 2,000 euros to be a lot for an artist today.
Yeah, and I can be talking about a release that will never make 2,000 euros. Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering about the, I don't know, technical aspect, if that's the right word. But if you have a record label, it's a legal company or legal body. It's a company, basically. If you do a deal that is via email, let's say, or a handshake, don't you need to, like, if you're a company, can you release things without having any, how do I say this? Is there like a way of doing it, or is it completely fine to also release without just word by talking?
It's completely fine until you have problems.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you don't have problems, so if you're a company and you work with individuals that are or aren't companies, it doesn't matter, and you can have a life of doing releases that if there is no legal action, no problem at all. No one will enter your office and say you're arrested because you don't have contracts. This won't happen. The contracts and the deals are important when something that doesn't go as planned. Like we had in our sadly in our label one time that we and the artists were not agreeing with the way that things were being conducted, and we ended up our relationship in a way that we thought that was clear for both, but in the end we felt that the artist was not fulfilling the compromises with us that he were agreed to fulfill. And we had no contracts whatsoever, and we needed to go to court. And luckily we won the appeal, but it was just emails and testifying that made the decision. If we had a contract, maybe we didn't need all these procedures, but in the end, it was, first he was sad that we needed to come to this point, that we needed to go to justice, but then in justice, legal emails have value. You can, if you have a history of emails and deals as testifying, has value. So, but you lose time, you lose money, it degrades. Like we were friends with these persons, and then we are on court arguing about something that we didn't want to do. But it's something that can happen. The contract just makes it easy. The contract or agreement or what you want to call it just makes it easy when things go sour. If nothing goes sour, but it's good to be ready to that things go sour, because people change, you change. Sometimes you can think that you're doing things right, but you're not. Also the other way around. So if you want to, I believe also if you work on something for a long time, this will eventually happen. Because you're dealing with a lot of people, you're dealing with expectations, you're dealing with a lot, and the normal thing is that this will happen eventually. It can be 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever, but there will be most definitely a moment where you and the other person who's on the other side will disagree. And you'll need something that shows that who is right or what needs to be done. I don't know if I replied to. But it also depends a lot on the laws of the countries by itself, because these work like this here. If you were in America, it will be totally different. Yeah. If you were in another country, it will be totally different, because these laws are also are always really representative of the country that we are in. If the country changes, is another way of doing things.
Fatma started to work with us on the record label recently. She was asking me, so what about the contracts? I'm like, there's there's no such thing. We only make contracts with blood. And,
yeah.
Something I saw in a movie, but sounded right at the time. And of course, even in that movie, everything went down.
Yeah.
Into total disaster. But at least, I don't know, it's a bit more punk also vision, but I think I understand at least the need for a written agreement. Yeah. So in the end of 60 or 100 records, if you do different deals with different people, either you do always the same deal and and you always know what you're talking about. If there are different deals, it's nice to keep track exactly of what you are proposing to each person and how it's,
Yeah, otherwise you forget. Yeah. You start to forget. And sometimes it's boring things, and the boring things are the ones that you forget faster. So, and to give room to other stuff. So it's good to have these papers. So with this, basically, we are ready to release. If you have all this, if you have all these things ready, you have music is ready. If you have a communication plan is ready. If we are part of these institutions, and also AMAE, that I didn't talk, but is also important, is the Association of Independent Musics and Labels in Portugal, and they give a lot of legal advisory. And also, one thing that I thought that was really helpful when I was in AMAE is that you know more people who are in the same situation as you, and the more I was aware of a lot of independent labels that I had no idea that they existed. A lot independent musicians. There's a lot of people doing stuff by themselves, and if we are not part of this network, sometimes we thought that we are alone, or we're just us and another one, and suddenly there's like 100 or 200 people who are doing the same stuff as you. So it's really important.
Actually, Pedro from AMAE is also coming for the next track, for the rights management track, together with Nuno from Arda also, and Eric Shriver, and Pedro from AMAE.
Good. It's going to be good with those. I met those ones as well. And knowing that there's publishing and there's money to be made from synchronization and all this other part of the industry, being ready and aware of artwork, how to do it, how to apply it, promo, have nice text, nice pictures, everything ready. Don't send your cover in a print screen with 50K of resolution. Things. If you want to, we are facilitators on this part. We are people. We need to make the job of the other persons easy. So we need to give them everything, so they can just listen to the music, read the stuff, be aware of us, and then do what they want to do. And all this that I'm saying here costs money. So a budget. It's really important that we have a budget, a realistic budget. If I'm an artist that produces music made with contact mics hitting the wood, nothing against that. I think that should be a lot of records of contact mics on the wood. Maybe I shouldn't do a record that will cost 20,000 euros. Maybe if I have 20,000 euros to spend and I want to spend them, great. But it's really important that I am aware of the costing of things, that I am aware of how much it costs, how I will get return from my investment, or if I'm seeing it as investment. There is a huge talk in our scene in Portugal about the professionalization of music, and I think it's really important, and I'm lucky to live from the music for a while, and during this period that we have our company, I'm seeing more and more people doing it. I think in Portugal we are living in it still has a lot of problems, but was never as good as it is now. You have loads of professional musicians, loads of professional structures, people who do their lives with music 100%, and that's really good. And these people need to be really aware and concerned about how they spend their money, what's an investment, what's not an investment, how to manage and how to keep on top. And having a label or being an independent promoter is really hard. It's really easy to lose a lot of money. It's really, really easy. It's really easy to lose 1,000 euros. It's really hard to gain them, but to lose them is really easy. Releasing a record, putting a show is really, sometimes the margins are really thin. Sometimes we are like releasing a record and we spend 5,000 euros on the record, and if everything goes right, you make 7,000. It's just 2,000 euros if everything goes right. And in the industry of selling records, you spend all the money at once, but then the return is really slow. In drops. So here, there. So you also need to have a financial capability of keep things moving and have money coming from different directions. And if you are just a person who likes to do it and want to spend money on music, all good as well. There's no. It's like all the. There are people who fish and there are people who are fishermen. You know, it's the same in all areas. And you can still release music and not aiming to be a professional musician. You can release music because you want to play, and nothing wrong with that. But if you want to be professional, if you want to make a living out of this, it's really important that you don't lose a lot of money all the time, because you get tired. Yeah. There will be one time they're like, sorry?
Tired and hungry.
Yeah, tired and hungry. You get fed up, like you're losing once, you're losing twice, and one time you'll I will.
You do everything in advance because all the mix and master and everything you need to pay for it before it's
Yeah, yeah.
do the budget first time.
Yeah, but, being aware of all of this and budgeting it. If I have this record, I wanted to record in this amazing 5,000 euro studio, but if I'm going to make 3,000, maybe I'll go to record in a smaller studio. If my audience historically doesn't buy vinyl, and making a vinyl costs 3,000 euros, but maybe they'll buy a tape. I'll do a tape that costs 300 euros versus a vinyl that costs 3,000. So all these decisions need to be really thought and consistent. And you see that most of the artists or labels who are in the market still, they are they really care about their money. Not in a capitalistic way, but in a way that the smart way, because they need to, because they keep track, because losing money here it's hard and you lose a lot. It's like putting a show. If you put a show, like a show for 1,000 people, that usually a band will get a fee of 8,000, 9,000 euros. It's really easy to lose 10,000 euros. It's really hard to earn 2,000 euros. And if the show goes well, you earn 2,000. If the show goes bad, you lose 10 easily. So in music, we are sometimes dealing with these margins where the margin of error is really big and the gains are really small compared to the risk that you take. So it's really important that if you want to be professionals in here, that all our decisions are really backed up by a plan, by a budget, I'm not just making decisions because I feel like they're the best solution. I also need to back it up with numbers, with data that shows me that those are the best ways of doing stuff.
As an independent artist, how do you make sure you're getting what you're earning what you to deserve? Like, what are the steps that you need to take exactly? Like, as an independent artist, as not signed with any label at all.
Mm-hmm.
How do you start and then go from there? How do you search for publishers, and how do you sign to the? How do you get the ISRC code? Like, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the question.
So starting from scratch is really hard all the time because nobody knows you. Nobody knows what you're doing. So I would also always recommend that you start to build your profile in the community first, because if you're part of a community, everything gets easier because people know you, people are aware of your work, and getting part of the community can work in many ways, like social media. Also, if you want to play live, try to open to other bands, try to relate with artists that you like, and try to really understand what you do and who are the people who share the same audience as you. If you are aware of that, you can learn a lot from that. You can see who is the label who's releasing them. Maybe they have a taste that can fit what I'm doing. Who is the person who's the publisher for these artists? Maybe if I send some information to this publisher, as he understands this band, he will understand also what I'm doing. And when we're starting getting to know this environment is really, really important, because you will learn a lot and it will help you to knock on the proper doors. Another thing that I also recommend a lot when we are starting, and even when we are working as a professionals already, because this is a network of people, and as many people as you know, stronger you are. And one thing is, like, you write me an email and I don't know you, never heard of you. The sense of me replying to you is like 1%. It depends if I don't have a lot of emails, if I found your email funny or not, it depends, I don't know you. Maybe I have a lot of stuff to do, and I'm being totally honest. I don't reply to all, I love to, but I don't reply to all the emails that I get. I will do nothing more in my life than replying to emails, and I will do no work at all, we'll be just replying to emails. But if I met you like here, and we talked, and you email me tomorrow, I will reply you, because we met. Or if you have a friend who knows me, and we met in a show, and we talk a little bit, and then you write me, I will reply you. Or if I go in Portugal, we have 2 professional music fairs, is MIL in Lisbon and Westway Lab in Guimarães, and they are really good environments. You can go with your band and showcase, and that's cool, but for me the strongest part is that the people that you met. You know a lot of people. You met people who work in the same business as you met other musicians, you have a lot of talks, and if you go to these places consistently, you will see that it's not so many people, it's the same faces over and over again, and you start to create relationships with these people, you start to get closer to them, and this helps a lot when we approach them, because you're not just an email. You're that guy that we were drinking a beer a year ago in Lisbon, or that person that I was talking after the show in Guimarães, and in the end, this network is what keeps it all together and what makes things go forward. That's why you see, sometimes we see artists in the market that we don't understand. Oh, this piece of shit is having so much exposure, because networks are really important for the good and for the bad. And I'll be lying if I wouldn't say that this is a really important thing. Of course, then what happens is the history and the market turns that person away. Sometimes you see artists that you don't feel that they have what is needed to be there, and they have a lot of exposure, but then they go down as quickly as they went up. And if you have the talent, maybe you stay there and you continue to be on the top. But it's not a linear business. It has a lot of layers, a lot of points of contact, and it's really important that we are aware of that, and we are aware that we need to be part of this network. If you are aware of that, then everything it's easier.
I need to search for
Yes.
Márcio, as part of a label who works, which is genreless in some sense, because you work with a lot of genres, of music genres, can you tell us a bit of the struggle of, because yeah, it's of course each time you work with an artist you can work in a different way, but also it's difficult to find, if you just do like, if you're just a psychedelic trance label or artist, or if you are just a West Coast hip-hop artist, you can find very easily other artists that you can very quickly relate to and say, okay, this is coming out in this magazine because this magazine is actually focused on this kind of music and what. But there, I think there are every day more artists that decide to also to kind of explore a variety of genres, and also labels that are also doing this, and Lovers is one of these labels for me. So can you tell us a bit about this, like because it's not as obvious, or as I think it takes much more effort to find the niches, no?
Yeah, it's harder, because it will be really easy if you were, like you were saying, if you were like a genre-based label. Like if here's a metal label, you know that your audience is expecting that kind of music. So some things they like more, some things they like not so much, but they're expecting an aesthetic from what's released. And in our case, it's not. We release, like Sarin is a black metal thing from Brazil, and we release an Angélica Salvi, is a harp player, and we release Conferência Inferno, is like a post-punk electronic trio. And for us, it's obvious because it's the way that we listen to music since the beginning. We're never, and we also do festivals that represent that. So for us, this is the way that music should be listened to. It's like everything is music, and and listen to that. But it's really, like you're saying, it's hard to to standardize the way of releasing, because I released this black metal record. It resonated with these people. The harp player will not resonate with these people. Need to do another way. And we released this post-punk electronic thing. It will not resonate with the harp player. It will resonate with the other audience. So sometimes it's hard for us to see who are our audience, because we have different audiences in all our audience. And this makes us not be able to standardize procedures. Every time that we release, and it's like, oh, let's see what we do, what we don't do, and we lose a lot of time. And sometimes we feel, and this is a downside, that we don't feed momentum. Like we have a really nice release from, like I'm getting the Angélica Salvi record. This harp player, really nice release, really nice momentum. People are really aware of the label, and suddenly another release is punk pop band, and people, oh, I really like Angélica, I'm going to listen, and they listen, and like, it's not that genre, and like, and the momentum goes away. And this is something that we need to deal with, but it's our choice. We do it conscious of that. But in the other hand, we also see that we have audience that crosses and gets aware of music that otherwise they wouldn't, and they really value that. And that's really important for them. That we receive a lot of emails from people when we release something that they were not expecting, like, oh, I was not listening to this genre for a while, and suddenly I got this. Thank you for putting me to listen to this music again.
They start trusting you as curators of music.
Yeah, in a way, and it's good.
Their seal must be good.
Yeah, and this is kind of the story, because when we did this festival in Barcelos called Milhões de Festa a few years ago, and back then there was this really big, like, stoner rock psychedelic thing, and we booked some of these bands, but we booked things that got nothing to do, and people got mad at us, like, oh, why are you putting this electronic thing after this rock and roll band?
That happened a lot in the 90s also,
yeah.
when electronic music started to emerge, and they simply were not understand. And
Yeah.
If you do that here in Portugal, everywhere you were criticized by people. It's normal. The small niche of people.
Yeah, and we chose to do that, and suddenly what happened was like some events appeared in the market that were like psychedelic rock, electronic music, and they are doing really well for their niche, and the festival that we were doing doesn't exist anymore. So we were wrong and they are right. So because it's more focused to it's easier. It's easier for the audience to create a relationship. But now with the other festival that we do in Tremor, we keep the same format of making and programming really different music. We just changed the way that we communicate. And instead of communicating the acts by itself, we communicate the whole thing, the experience. And this changed everything because the audience gets there in a situation that they want this kind of experience. And it's really good to see that we have this audience that is so open to just go and enjoy the music. They're not expecting a certain genre. They're expecting to see music. So one thing that we learn from that is communication. Communication is key. The way that you communicate and the way that you... and the way that you position yourself. Because if you position yourself in one genre, you will disappoint a lot of people when you put another genre. But if you present yourself as a multi-genre, experience-based thing, then people already know what they are going to face.
And this is also an audience, a specific audience.
Yeah,
that
it
is
is.
the audience that maybe sees music the same way that you do.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is transversal to a lot of genres and more connected to the experience of watching live music and listen to recording music than on the genres themselves.
Yeah, totally. And
it's just not so easy to find.
Yeah, but when you find them, you get the mechanisms, and we noticed that, like with Tremor, we kind of almost sell out the festival without announcing a name. But this is a work of years, and now people go and we don't feel the pressure to book big names. And usually when we book them, it's good, people like to have them there, but it's never the artist that is most talked. It's always the artist that is discovered during the festival. Because people, this audience, I'm not saying that everybody, but this audience that we found, and it's there, they prefer the excitement of discovering something, being there first and seeing this band playing and being excited about it, than watching something that could be playing and already played a lot of times. But this was a process of self-knowledge and also knowing how to communicate, knowing how to put this to the outside. And these tools, we also get them to the label, because in the end it's the same mindset. It's just another way of putting the music out. In the festivals, we put the music in the stages, and on the label, we put the music on the internet or on records, but it's the same drive that moves us. So, just to continue here, self-release is all this that we talked about. You have any question? No? Independent label is a person who does all of this instead of you. It's just the difference. Then it's just the same. When you have an independent label, you just have someone, a person or a team, that will do all of this instead of you. And will actually manage all this work, do you the reports, tell how things are going, and you lose all this weight in your shoulders. Also is, like I was saying before, really important to have somebody to talk with, just to throw ideas. And sometimes with us, like with the bands, well, let's talk about the next release, and we meet them and we talk, and we get really good ideas that we will never get alone, and they will never get alone. Like, it's something that we get when we speak together and when we talk together. One thing that is also really important when you choose to go for an independent label is if you arrive with a master, or if the label pays you for the master. Because if you arrive with a master, you have all the right to use the label just as a distributor, because you are the one who got the master is yours. So you're on the right to keep the master and to make this deal with the label. Like, I have the master is mine, I want to release on your label, but let's work together, we can do a split, or it's not fair that you keep all the master to yourself. If the label is paying for everything, like you were saying, if the invoice of the studio is going to the label, Legally, if there is a problem, the master is from the label, because the invoice is on the layer's name. And this is, legally, is as simple as this. If you want to do it otherwise, you need to talk with the label to get to agreement where you keep the master. And this will be, needs to be written if it's the label who's paying for everything. So it's really important to be aware of who owns it. For a lot of reasons. Imagine that you release a record like it's happening now and it will happen in the future. You release a record now and it didn't went well. And 20 years from now, some person on the internet will discover your music and will tweet about it, and then it became huge because you released that music not on the right time, and suddenly it's the right time and people love that music, and you want to release that record because you feel like now I'll be able to spread this music for a while. And you want to do it, and maybe the master is not yours, it's from the label, and the label will release it, and they don't even need to ask you anything. They just release the record, and that's cool. That's cool. That's in their powers, in their will. So it's really important to have all this information and to be aware of what the deals are being made, to not be in this position where you want to do something with that recording and you are not able to. There was a case with GNR, this Portuguese band, is a really big Portuguese band, that they wanted to do a show in Porto at Coliseum playing a record, but the label were not allowing them to play. It was something like this, like really, really weird. They went to the court and then I think they lost. It was really because of that, master ownership.
Just a quick question. So imagine that, imagine that the artist has the master, and that, for example, you as an independent label decide that the master should be on the artist's side, and then when it goes, concerns to like stuff like publishing and sync, it's how does this relate to? Can you agree with the artist, for example, like okay, the master is yours, but if this gets published, like we also should have a cut, or how do you manage this kind of?
Yeah, you can have an agreement with them that you act as a third party between the publisher and the artist, and you get a percentage of all the incomes.
And also the broadcast is also connected to the master, right? Is what you were saying that you register in AudioGest. So if it's, but in that case there are no agreements. If it's in the name of the artist, everything goes to the artist. If it's in the name of the label,
everything. Or you can do a split. You can.
Can you register the master in?
Yeah, you can do percentage. You can do 50-50, 10-90.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want to. Any questions here?
I have a question that might not be that objective. That is, what's the price that people pay to have that kind of service? Like mix and master can be like 200 to 1,000. It depends on how many songs. Depends on the engineer who is mastering, etc. But like major labels also who como é que se diz cobram?
Charges.
Who charges those values? Only major labels, or independent labels also charge that kind of service?
It depends on the agreement as well, but both of them can charge and can put that on the sheet of costing. And also you can master a record for 200 euros or for 10,000 euros. It really depends on who's doing the job. It's the same with a PR. You can hire someone to do PR for you for 500 euros or for 5,000 euros. It depends on the professional, on the amount of work. Usually, like publishing is not, they don't charge. They work on commission. It's like a success rate. If they give the songs, they have your catalog. If they do a deal, they'll get a cut of the deal. You don't need to pay in advance, like an agent, like a booker. It's the same kind of scenario.
Because I'm asking this because I have been working on the industry for like 2 years, and I studied sound engineering in a school, and they never like teach me how should I impose my payments. And you're talking like about 500, 10,000 euros, and the prices that I've been watching are like low, way lower.
Yeah.
And like there's any kind of like standard in Portugal, or it's like it's
No, there are people who defend that you should have a board or a sheet with prices like average. It's like what's the name? Como é que se diz aquelas coisas? Not sindicato. Não é bastonário. Ordem, como like an organization of musicians, technicians that should make like a rate. How much is an hour? How much is because it doesn't work like that. It works really on the laws of the market. If nobody wants to hire you, it's low. If a lot of people want to hire you, it's high. That's the only.
Like bands, no? Like
Yeah.
if you bands play for
It's
Yeah, there is like this band. They're going to play in Primavera in Lisbon called Shellac, and they have this musician called what's the name of the guy? He's a producer, and he produces Steve Albini. He's a producer. He produces bands. He has a studio, and he produces like records from Nirvana and produces records from most like rock and heavy and and Walls as well. And he has this thing that because as a producer you can make a deal with royalties. You can ask for a smaller advance, like the band or the label pay you lower, but if the record goes well, you also get royalties from the record. And like in his case, he says that he only wants a flat fee. It's always the same flat fee. I think it's 5,000 euros that he charges, because he doesn't want to be infected by the way of that band being successful or not in the way that he works. So he wants to be completely blank about the idea of that band being successful or not in the way that we'll do his work. And he has a lot of really nice videos and talks about the way that he sees himself as an engineer and as a producer, and there are people who think otherwise, because in the end it's just like, it's a market that is really ruled by the laws of market, like it's basic capitalism. It's really it's supply and demand in the end. There's it's not regulation at all. It's like what you're saying, like fees from bands. A band can go from 500 euros to 1 million euros in 1 year, playing the same songs. It's just a matter of people wanting to see them or not. So sometimes it's hard. But you're right, and like in all this, what we call in Portugal liberal professions like sound engineering, design, architecture, people who are independent and they work for markets, it's really common that people get out of school and don't know how much should I charge, because you don't talk about that. You don't talk about how much is a payday of a sound engineer, how much is a payday in the studio, how much is a payday if you're doing live mixing, how much you should get for. So it's good that you know people, because the market is basically defined by the people who are around you and the demand that you have.
And nowadays with music, it's also like you can, for instance, my last album, it was the final mixes I did it in California and the master I did it in Barcelona, because it's something that went global. Like you don't have to do it everything in the same country.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a question of choice, how you like these people, how you like it to be mixed, how you like it to be mastered, not just about money.
Yeah.
It's normal also in Portugal, producers, composers, mix engineers, recording engineers work with artists that work normally several times with some artists. They charge a fee, like like royalty with artists. Artist has his own business with all the companies, and in the studio also he can share a fee with recording engineers, whatever are the trust persons.
One question. If you are using third parties for the mastering, which one owns the rights? So if you have a mix and you are using a third party like Landar or Major Decibel, like some companies, that master is from that company or is from the agreement?
No, because mastering is perceived as a service only.
Okay.
You have no impact on the content. You just no impact on the content on the creation side. You're just leveling, making it sound better or worse or whatever. So it doesn't have any impact on ownership.
We've been talking about copywriting audio, but we haven't talked about words, lyrics. Most of my royalties come from my lyrics, which is a bit odd, but it is what it is. So I want to know, what is the process of registering lyrics in Portugal? Is the same as we do? It's a separate process?
When you go to SPA, you go and you copyright music and lyrics. And you split it. You can be the composer of both, or you're in a band and you can have like 4 people composing the music, but only you doing the lyrics. And then the right is divided like that as well. Okay. There is a part of the right that is only applied to the lyrics, and the other part is only applied to the music.
Okay, thanks.
And actually, I don't know if it's just the Portugal case, but here I know for a fact that the bigger money you receive is from lyrics and melody. It's SPA. The other two are really smaller.
Yeah, 50. It's normally 50-50.
But I'm not registered there, so that's
Nah.
Why? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because I'm DistroKid, I have plain lyrics and synced lyrics. I'm registered my lyrics on every lyrics website, and I'm receiving royalties through DistroKid.
Okay.
And I know that that's from the lyrics because I know the website and the source of income.
Okay.
Sites like AZ Lyrics and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I have a question that if someone like me, I would always produce and mix my own music. Maybe I'll get it mastered by someone else. And now if I want to work with a label, then what should be my expectations from that? And how do labels prefer, or like do you prefer working with someone who already has their masters ready, or someone who has the compositions but not recorded, and you're willing to pump in money because then you'll keep the 100%? Or so how does, like, 2 questions?
Yeah. Like for a first agreement, I would prefer someone who arrives with a master, because I don't have to put on the time and the money to bet on something that I don't know. So because the risk is smaller. If the first release goes well, and the second one, we like to be more involved in the process. It doesn't mean that we keep the master ourselves. We can do an agreement. We can do it in. It's really we do it some, but we don't do it with a lot. But usually it's that on the first one, it's good when the artist arrives with everything ready and we just work on the release together, but the music is there.
I just want to add to that. So when you say work together for the release, does that also mean that the label helps with like touring and shows, and like maybe get the visibility in terms of live performances, or no?
In our case, yes, because we do 300%, but in the traditional way, no. No. In the traditional way of a label working is just the music, not the live part. Some are more aware than others, but not most of the time. So we spoke about self-releasing, independent label, and in major label is what we were speaking in the morning. We are not aware of any of this process. We have a check. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not that good. Today is not. There are not so many checks in the end. Today, major labels work with checks for the big artists, and with the smaller artists they work in a way that is not like it was in the past, but we are not so aware of the process, we are not so much in control of the process that goes through releasing the record. Any questions here?
How much is, like, in how much oscillation there is in what the independent label gets, for instance, from the streamings or the albums, because I guess that's the important thing.
Like in our case, again, it depends on case to case. I can just speak in our case. In our case, we split digital 60-40, 60 to the artist, 40 to the label, and we split physical. It depends on the deals, but usually it's 50-50 after break.
After the costs.
After the costs, yeah. But it depends. Sometimes it's around this, but it can be changed. But sometimes, but it's mostly around this case. And publishing, we get 20%.
20.
Yes, and we only from the rights that we are talking about, we only go to Audiogest. Pass Música and SPA, it goes straight to the artist. We don't have anything to do with that rights management. So tools that we need to release. We talked about them while we were talking, but we're here just to rephrase some and to speak in more depth about some. Digital versus physical, or digital and physical. We can do one or the other, or doing both. Digital, what we need? We need the files, we need the artwork, we need text, we need the tunes prepared to be shared, so we need waves, MP3s, FLACs, whatever. It needs to be mastered for that, having that on mind. Sometimes this is really important because we just do one mastering, and that mastering goes for everything. And then, if the mastering was thought to digital, it's not a surprise that it will sound awful in a tape or in a vinyl or in a CD. So it's really important that the mastering is done towards the format that is going to be released. And the digital is the most easy one in terms of what we need, and the one that costs us less money to do, or none money. We need to have a digital distributor, like the ones we spoke about, cut a deal with them, and then choose where we want the things to go, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. And we talked about CD Baby, AWAL, Altafont, there are a lot of them. These are mainly the ones used. And then we have SoundCloud that you can use or not. We have Bandcamp that we can use or not, but is becoming more and more a place for people to use, and a good place for people to have their music. And basically, it's spreading the music all around. You can do targeted campaigns to spread the digital content on social media, on Google, and also on the platforms itself. If you enter Spotify, for example, sometimes you have banners of songs that were released. This is paid content. This is the labels or the artists who get in touch with Spotify and ask for a campaign to amplify their releases. So this is a way that music can be spread on the digital way. It's really important to be aware of the income of these digital plays. It's not a lot of money. We all heard the stories about how much 1 million plays gives, and it's really hard to get rich towards this. But it's a place where presence is important, and also if people want to listen to your music, you're there, they can reach you easily. And it's good when you can canalize this towards people buying merch, people going to shows, people spending their money in other ways. So it's really important, this digital presence. It's just as important that we are aware of what we are getting from each one of them. And as Hugo was saying this morning, maybe from Spotify, I don't expect income. I expect the same as I'm on the playlist or on the radio, is the same kind of exposure that I aim for. And if I go with that mindset, I will won't get disappointed when I get my invoice with 32 euros for I don't know how many plays. So it's good to have this on mind. If I do physical releases, I need a bigger chain of a process to do my release. I need to have, starting for the music, a different master to, let's say, the three ones that we are using a lot physical is vinyl, CD, and tape. Each one of them will request a different master, and each one of them will request a different provider. There is one provider who does tapes. Tapes is the cheapest of them all, the cheapest and the quickest. You have in Porto a company called eDisco that they do tapes. It takes a week to do a tape. It sounds like a tape, even if the master is really good. There is no miracles. It's supposed to. Is that quality of the sound, and it's funny because tapes are the way of consuming music where you have more purchases. They are never played. A lot of people buy tapes and they never play them because of it's a cheap way of people contribute to the band. You know, you go to see a show, you really like the band. You want to buy something. You don't want to buy a 30 euro vinyl. You don't even have a record player, but they have a tape for sale for 7 euros, and you buy the tape.
And listen to them on Spotify.
Yeah, listen to them on Spotify. Maybe you have a code to download the MP3 from. But it's a nice way of having something, and it's quick to do. It's cheap. I like that format a lot, and I'm happy that people are consuming it not as a listening device mostly, but as a way of creating a relationship with an artist.
How much is the cost of a tape? I don't have any idea.
Like 100 tapes could be 300 euros. 3 euros a tape.
It's not so cheap. More expensive than a CD.
Yeah, a CD, if it's like 1,000 copies, it's cheaper. But if it's 1,000 tapes, it's cheaper than that. I think we never did 1,000 tapes because it's a lot of tapes. But usually it's like that. 200. I'm saying with VAT, it's like 200 and something with VAT. Plus VAT gets 300, something like that. Ok. So eu vou acelerar. We have the CD that is also really cheap and really quick to do, and then we have the vinyl that is not cheap and is not quick to do. And nowadays we're facing like 8 months, a year and a half sometimes, time to produce a vinyl. We're facing things like, now I hope, and I'm getting the feeling that it's more stable, but it happened with us and it happened with partners that we were like having a vinyl to do, and it was in the factory for 6 months, and then the company called us, the prices of materials went really up. If you want to do this, it's more 800 euros, or we won't do it.
But is it legal at all?
Yeah, it is, because...
But haven't you paid yet? Like
No. We paid half, and then we need to pay the other half. And they say, like, we can give you the money back if you want. Now we're doing them in Portugal, but we did in a lot of places in the past. We did in Czech Republic, in England, in France, and now there is a company here called Grama in Porto, and we're starting to work with them. But it's a global problem. You have lots of artists that are postponing releases, and because the records are not ready on time.
Factories like Metallica.
Yeah, totally. Because what happened, lots of factories closed in the 80s, and because there was a period that only the independent artists were doing vinyl. But suddenly, with this vinyl hype, you have Metallica doing vinyl, Madonna doing vinyl, all these Coldplay doing vinyl, and these factories that were doing batches of 1,000, 2,000 for small artists suddenly started to do 50,000 records. And there's not factories that can do for all these requests. This is some nice pictures of records in the record store and in the internet that goes to distribution again. Really important. Putting the records out digital, easy, physical, not so easy. If we can't get a deal with a distributor, there is a lot of people who have independent labels, like, for example, in Portugal, there is a really nice example. It's Capitão Fausto, you know, this band. They're like a big pop band from Portugal. They have their own label, but they use Sony only for distribution. They have a distribution deal with them, not a record deal. And when you have the numbers, the labels can be up to this. If not, you need to do it one by one. Revenue, being really sharp about where to get the money, like we talked before, knowing direct sales, rights, copyrights, merch, like everything. We have here the four big things. Direct sales is the most logical one. Publishing, merch, like everything that can be generated from the sale, and copyrights. And sometimes, if this doesn't work, this three could work really well. And there are artists who have that. They don't sell any records at all, compared to the size of the artist, but they can get a lot of revenue from all the other parts. Questions? No questions? Work. So, not today, but Friday, we'll be here with Carolina, and she will present you an exercise that we'll be doing during the day. I think she will ask you to do the conceptual part in the morning and do the presentation during the afternoon. And we'll be asked to do a release plan from start to finish, going through all the process that we were working here. You can't bring your final work. No, she knows. It's batata. And she will show you what are the variables of this exercise, because it's not totally free. There are some things that we want to point out that you need to work on. And with this data, we will ask you to build this plan and then to present here this plan, and we'll go from recording the music to having the music listened by the listener. It needs to go through all these phases, identify all the players, identify everybody that we need to hire, all the steps, make a schedule, make everything like we could go out and release a record with that plan that we're going to do here. Okay? Any questions?
Anything we need to bring for that exercise?
Just computer. You can do the exercise alone or in groups. If you do it in groups, it's good because you can talk. But then with Carolina, she will organize herself. You can be thinking a little bit. I don't want to show you the exercise now, so. Of course. Yeah, that's even better. If you have something and you really apply what you'll be doing here, it's even better. Questions before we ask, because before we end. Let me give you my email. I will get hundreds of emails. That you could write me asking for the link of, and if you want to write me, feel free. I will reply because I know you. So, and I'll feel ashamed if I don't. I will point it in the street. And if I can help you, I'm more than happy to do it. And it was really good to be with you during this day, and hope you're going home happier than you entered here in the morning. And if you recall any other questions that we didn't address here or something, feel free to write me, and Luani can tell that I reply.
That's for sure. Maybe in 15 business days.
With holidays. And paternal leave.
Well, thanks, Márcio.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Muito obrigado pelo convite. Thank you for the invitation. Obrigado. Hã?